Okay, I am sitting down with my really good friend Kayla today, and Kayla is going to share her story with us today. She has a unique testimony that a lot of people in our season of life don't necessarily have wisdom and expertise in yet. And so Kayla is going to share some hard things that I think might be really encouraging to us. And Kayla, I'm just really thankful that you are doing this and sitting down, and I know that this isn't I was like, is there a happier topic I could interview you about? But
I said, no, this needs to be said. This needs to be talked about.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for being willing to encourage others.
You're welcome.
That's so sweet of you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Okay. Well, I am 34, and I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 4 kiddos, 4 boys. And currently, or lately, I'm also a pastor's wife. That was kind of a recent thing, just this last year. So that's a new experience. So yeah, and the reason that I want to talk to you today, I want to talk to everyone, is about my parents died already. And my mom died when she was 52, about almost 6 years ago. And my father died when he was 56, so pretty young to lose both of your parents. I was 28, and my mom died on Christmas morning, 2010, when I was 28. At that time, I had my 5-year-old, 4-year-old, and 1-year-old. So young mom, not expecting to lose your mom at that age.
Sudden also.
It was sudden. My mom was diagnosed. My mom had diabetes all of her life. But she was also a nurse, so she didn't really let us know how severe it had gotten. Mm-hmm. So that's why it was a shock. She had been sick right before Christmas, and she wasn't going to tell us about that. And so it was just very sudden. And then 3.5 years later, April 17th, 2014, my dad had a stroke, and his aortic valve, and he was a hardworking man, always has been. So that was also a shock. He wasn't sick or anything, no long diseases or anything to battle against. He just had a stroke, and his aortic valve, he was in the hospital for a little less than 24 hours. And yeah, he passed away as well, so 56. So yeah, it's been, hard time. Of course now it's 2016, so, things are better, and God's walking me through it, and I want to share with others that might be going through it or know someone that's going through it.
So both were sudden losses.
Yes.
Both were young. They were both young. They were young, and their children. You all were very young.
And I'm the oldest. I have a younger sister. She's a year younger than me, and then my brother is 5 years younger than me. So when my mom died, he was, 21.
So Kayla, we have been friends for a while now, and I know that you really cling to God's word and your faith in God in all circumstances. So in this particular circumstance, how did you cling to God?
Well, in the beginning, I'll just say it's okay to ask why, because I asked why a lot. And thankfully, God provided for that. Not right away, but he did help me with that. And so I just want to, real quick, there's a scripture I want to
please do.
I want to share. Okay. It's in 1 Thessalonians 4:13. We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, concerning those who are asleep, so that you will not grieve like the rest who have no hope. Mm-hmm. And this scripture was awesome for me because there's a lot of, when that happens to you, you just, for me anyways, and maybe it's just because I'm my personality, I wanted everything I wanted to know about, everything depth. I wanted to know about what happens when we leave this earth, what goes on. I inhaled every book about heaven that I could find. And I don't know if that was all completely good, and not all of them were probably theologically sound, but I didn't care. I just wanted to hear everyone's opinion about what heaven was. I wanted to know where my mom was, because she was the first one that died, so that's why I'm referring to that, because I just inhaled everything. And when I read this scripture, it said, God does not want us to be uninformed. It's okay. It's okay to question. It's okay to think about these things. It's okay. Mm-hmm. And so...
so that you won't be like those without hope.
Without hope. Mm-hmm. So go to the Bible, go to people that have knowledge of these things. And I did, and it was good. But And that's part of me, I guess. I just wanted to make sense of it because it didn't seem right. My mom was 52. I had 3 little guys, and my sister had 3 guys, and my brother hadn't even been married yet. And I just didn't understand why she would get to have. God thought that was okay, like that she could go now.
Right, like why is this the time?
Why is this the time? Yes. But and a lot of people were praying for me, and they were praying peace for me, a peace about this, and I felt that. And so God started to show me the peace. So with my mom's personality, I came to the conclusion that, okay, first of all, I'm so glad she went quick. I'm just saying that the last time I saw my mom, we were Christmas shopping. It was me, my sister, and my brother, and her. And we went to Christmas shopping and went crazy. We went to IHOP, and we're just a zany bunch.
It was a wonderful time.
It was a wonderful time. And so my last memories of her. And then the next day, she actually texted all of us and said, I just love my adult kids. You're my best friend. I just love my kids. You're my best friends. I can't wait to do this again. And so it's like, okay, God, I get that. You had to take her quick because we needed that sort of positive time. My mom was a nurse, so if she would have been sick or drawn out or miserable, she would have been a terrible sick person. I'm just saying. Mm-hmm. She would have been yelling at the nurses probably and not getting her, she just would have been, it wasn't her style. Mm-hmm. It wasn't her style. So God gave me peace about the quickness, because I think that's different for a lot of people. I think some people might need their parents to, kind of go, you might need to sort of let them go. Mm-hmm. And some people might need that process, and I think it was better the way God chose, or the way it happened.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe you saw some of his plan in it.
Saw some of his plan in it, for
sure. Something that felt like shocking and hard and too abrupt. You were kind of like, I see some goodness in this. I see some good.
Why God chose, or why it went down that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just God giving me some peace about it.
Yeah.
I guess. And then with my dad, he got helicopter flown out, and he had, like I said, less than 24 hours in the hospital, but we were up in there in the ICU and part of that, and there were some special parts of that too. I did not like seeing him in that state, unconscious for the most part, but we did get a chance to pray over him. My dad wasn't really vocal about his choice with God and Jesus, so that part is very scary. If we didn't have those moments where me, my sister, and my brother were together praying over him, and I wish I had a portrait of us, like praying over him.
You have siblings, and you shared that with us also. You have a younger sister and a younger brother.
Yes.
And so you're the oldest.
I am.
How did...
13 months.
By 13 months. So you and your sister are really close in age. So during this season, as siblings, how did you all grow closer to one another and encourage one another?
I thought about this, and by God's grace, because I think about siblings and what it means when you lose sort of your people that are connecting you. Mm. It could go one way or the other. You could not have that connection anymore, and it's done. Or in our case, I'm so thankful that my sister and my brother and we're a 3-stranded rope. Mm-hmm. And with our spouses, we're even stronger. That's what we say, because they're in for the long haul, so they're not going anywhere.
Yes.
But so by God's grace, and whenever we lost my mom, it was one of those things where, I don't want to say that life's short, because it is, but life is precious, and you can let really dumb things get in the way of that preciousness. So do we get frustrated with each other? Absolutely. But we just don't let the sunset on our anger. We just wake up that His grace is new every morning, His mercy is new every morning. So we just try to forget about it and go to the next day. But I will just say, when my mom passed away, my parents were actually divorced at that time, but they were living together. Mm-hmm. They had an on again, off again, kind of crazy relationship. But because of that, we had to make those decisions. And a lot of that stuff is a haze when my mom passed away, especially because, it was a shock. It never happened to us before. But we had to be the ones to make the decisions on what happened, because it's not like they had a plan. They weren't old, so they didn't have that. everyone should make a plan now.
And they weren't technically even married.
They were technically even married, so
your parents weren't. That makes your story kind of unique.
Yes.
And that your parents were not actually married at the time.
They were living together. They loved each other. They were a hot mess. But anyway, they were a hot mess. I mean, they just were. It's fine. We've learned from them and did the right, like, we okay, that's what not to do. And so
that's what not to do.
Yeah. That's good. You should do that. My parent, just because somebody dies doesn't mean they're perfect.
Right.
My parents aren't perfect. By any means. But anyway, so that was interesting because we had to make those decisions and together and what matters, what matters, and it was not as hard as you might think because a lot of it was like, well, what would Mom want? Well, she wants something that looks good. Like we could chose some of the things for when someone dies, and there's a lot of decisions you have to make that you don't want to make, and we just tried to think of what she would like. Right. And then with my dad, we did his stuff, and he was a little more. I mean, I guess because what already happened, he was a little more planned out with that. Mm-hmm. Not much, but we had to go through their stuff at that point. No one in their early 30s and late 20s should have to go through their parents' stuff, and that's pretty crappy. But sorry, but
crappy isn't okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's just I don't know.
Just sums it up.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Just sums it up.
But we could have either gone through their things and made it a chore and didn't do it, but we decided to use it. My dad died in the spring, and we chose the summer months to go through once a week. We met together at the house. We all lived in the same area. God planned that out because I've actually moved some in my life, so the fact that I lived there during that season, God knew we needed
because
that.
you lived far from them a few
I moved
times.
to Chicago after my mom died. I moved to Chicago, and we lived up there, did church planning thing, and did some neat things. And I'm glad I had that experience. But then, before my dad died, he moved us back. God has a plan. Anyway, so we went through once a week that summer and went through the house little by little, gathering things, cleaning off things, remembering things. I can't believe they kept this. Can you believe they kept this for all they know? My dad, okay, so we had this quilt that my sister and I played volleyball in high school, and there was this quilt that the team could piece together, and they had a raffle for it. And they had the quilt. We saw the quilt. It was all dingy from some cigarette smoke. But anyway, we knew that. But we found the raffle tickets.
That's funny.
A drawer full of raffle tickets that he had bought all the raffle tickets so that they could get the quilt.
Aww.
And it's like, he kept all the raffle tickets.
That's sweet.
So, and my mom had a lot of writings that we went through. She was a writer as well as a nurse. She wrote a lot of song lyrics. And since their marriage struggled, she had a lot of that in there. And it was neat to walk through the history of our family together and talk about it.
As siblings.
And we just grew closer.
When we were little, she kind of always tried to prepare us that one day we would have each other. And she used to say, now you two don't fight because one of these days we are going to be gone. You won't have Mom and Dad and you will just have each other. Like our whole lives my mom said this. Okay. You will just have each other one day. God gave you to each other.
And you could either fuss and fight about who gets what, which I'm sure that happens to a lot of families, or you can say, hey, well, what we did was we called it the snake draft. Okay, so fantasy football, but football in our lives. Anyway, we just had all this stuff, and we said, okay, you pick first, and then you pick, and then you pick. The third one gets to pick twice, and you go back around, and it's a snake draft. It's even and fair that way. So we just said, well, what picks goes. We didn't fight and fuss about it. That's
right.
just what it was.
Right.
Because it's just stuff.
It's just stuff. Right? And what your parents would want more is that relationship for you all to have with one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There might be other women in the same season of grief, and maybe they'll have an opportunity to watch this and maybe learn something. What kind of wisdom, your hard-earned wisdom, would you share with them?
Well, first thing, and it's when I say even a lot when I hear people you hear people losing their family and friends on Facebook, one thing I say is, let Jesus carry you. I am the oldest sibling. So I could have been like, well, if someone's got to hold it together, it's got to be me. And I got to do this and that. But you know what?
Because we do that as the older sibling.
We do.
In situations.
We do. Or whoever, maybe it's not the older, whoever's the responsible one. Even if you are the responsible one, let Jesus carry you. Just don't try to be strong. Nope. Just nope. Not in this situation. You just don't worry about that stuff.
Just let Jesus carry you.
Absolutely. Because, when I look back, it's a haze about where my children were. Because someone took them away, and someone who was taking care of them. I was in mourning. I was with my mom, and I want to say this too, it's different. Do what feels natural when you're going through grief, especially in those first few days. With my mom, it was to be quiet, be still, almost like in a fetal position. I watched some old classic movies that she liked, just kind of try to escape some of it, some in and out, you know. And whereas my sister, my aunts were kind of already going through her things, and I just didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be still in her spot in the living room where she always sat, and just be there. And that's what was natural to me, and that's what I wanted to do. I felt like I was the closest to her I could possibly be.
And that's what comforted you.
That's what comforted me. So just whatever feels natural. But my dad was completely different. With my dad was outside. I wanted to be outside. It was spring. He died on April 17th. And I just felt like I just needed to be outside all the time. So I was out in the lawn chair, outside, whether I was reading or just sitting, listening to, my dad liked classic rock, just listening to classic rock in one of his t-shirts, just an old ratty t-shirt, that was my dad's big t-shirt. And I don't know, it just felt natural, it felt right. I felt like I was close to my dad. And I needed to think about my dad, and that's what it was. With my mom, I didn't leave the house for a while. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to be around a lot of people. I just didn't. I guess maybe it was because the loss, I didn't want to talk about it. I don't know. With my dad, I wanted to be at church as soon as I was able to get to church. Probably because on the first time, I saw how important that was as the weeks went on, that I needed to be there. So then when I was dealing with my dad, I just was there, and I didn't skip out, even though I did stay in the back. And you want love and support, but you don't want questions and just have to talk about things. Maybe. That comes later. It's definitely a process.
Yeah. The different personalities may handle differently too. So I like what you said about do what feels natural in the grief.
For you as a person,
to heal.
Other people are doing, like I said, my sister and my aunts were keeping busy in the house.
And let Jesus carry you.
They were like, we're just go through some of mom's stuff. This is like days after. And since my dad's stuff was still in there, my dad was in the house too, they were wanting to kind of clean off her sink area and stuff. I was like, I'm not interested in that. I'm right here.
Right,
I don't know.
Yeah.
They were doing what felt comfortable to them.
That's what felt
fine.
comfortable to them.
And don't be angry about that.
No.
Everyone is dealing with different.
Yes.
So also, the person needs to a person that's lost someone in their life that's close to them, they need to let the church and those closest to them minister to them, whatever that means. For me, it was childcare. My in-laws sort of swept them away, and they probably had their own grief that they were pretty small, so I don't know, they probably got through it easily, but I wasn't around them because I was dealing with my own, and they didn't necessarily need to see me in that state. They brought food, and that was wonderful. Didn't have to think about that in the weeks after. They brought paper products, which was amazing. Because you don't want to work, you don't want to do anything.
Do dishes and
do that. And then they also even did yard work. Just let them do what they do. Jesus, we are the body of Christ is the hands and feet of Jesus. And if you let Jesus carry you, that's what that means. Okay, so.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that wisdom with us. Kayla, finally, there are a lot of people watching who maybe haven't experienced that season of grief, but we all know people going through that season of grief, and we often don't say anything at all to people because we're afraid of messing it up. But how can we best show love to people who are experiencing grief? What does that look like? What can we do, not as ones who are going through it, but as friends of people who are going through it, and church members of people going through it, and family members? What can we do?
Well, in those first few days, there's a lot of people that sent messages, and that's nice. It's encouraging to just read messages to see on Facebook or text or email or whatever and that stuff. They may try to call. I know personally I didn't want to talk to anyone because I was still processing things.
Yes.
I saw the messages. I thought that's nice. I didn't respond to anybody's messages. My husband, he did more of that, talking to other people and everything. So messages are good, notes of prayer, things like that, very good. Just don't expect any response right away because they, just don't know how they're handling things.
Right.
But showing that you love and support them is always good. Then real quick, talking about the visitation or wake, some people call it that, and the funeral. For me and how I believe, just because now that I've experienced several, the visitation or wake is for the family. So basically, if you don't know the person that's gone, the person that died, but you know the rest of the family or someone or your friend or whatever, go to the visitation. That is for the family.
So show love and support
to the visitation.
Yes,
because when you come, and maybe because the funeral is more of honoring the person that died.
Yes.
And that's great too. But if you don't know what to do and you have to choose, and you didn't, that's why I'm trying to give you guys a clear option. If you don't know the person that died very well, that visitation is what you do.
Yes.
Because then you're just hugging on that person. That person has more of a chance to talk, because when they're at the funeral, they're trying to grieve and remember, and you know what I mean? They're doing their best to say goodbye to their loved one. And they will appreciate stories of their loved ones at the funeral. But as far as, I don't know, it's
not necessarily the same time to visit.
It's just a different mentality. And I guess it depends on what kind of funeral, but we had like funeral time, and then we went to the gravesite. There just wasn't there was a lot of family stuff. But anyway, if you didn't know the person that died, go to the visitation. Also, if you would go if you lived close, but since you don't, you live far away, send something. I did not realize how important the flowers and the plants were at the visitation and the funeral. Send something to whatever, because it was like as a representative of that person. Like they live a long ways away, they couldn't be here, but they're thinking about you, praying for you, and obviously they took the time to order you something and sacrifice a little of themselves for you, because they just ache with you. And I felt that, and I wouldn't have known that had I not walked through this. Seeing all the plants and the flowers and things and the beautiful display, and seeing the certain families and people that took the time to do that, even though they couldn't come and hug me personally, which I love a good hug, and that's why I love the visitation. It was a very special time. A lot of crying, but it was special to me. So anyway, if you can't come to visitation, I highly recommend sending something. Or sometimes they do, in lieu of flowers, do send a memorial something.
Yes.
You could do that too. But I guess the visual there for me was just special. And the people that know you get to take that home and keep reminding of you as you're praying and thinking about them and things.
Right. And that's nice. We were talking earlier off camera about just how flowers are a remembrance that someone, like a visual, that someone has remembered you and you're grieving, and that you haven't been forgotten, because, it feels like perhaps that the world has kind of just kept going, but that flower is a reminder, a visual reminder that someone's remembering you.
Other thing is, whenever that loved one, that person that has lost someone in their life, wants to talk about them, wants to talk about their mom or their dad, don't be uncomfortable about that, because it's going to happen, and it's okay, because and don't feel uncomfortable to talk about your own mom or dad that's still alive, just because you're around a person that doesn't have theirs anymore, because our parents are such a part of us. And so if you say something about, my mom just flew out of my mouth, well, I might say, my mom flew out of my mouth, and it was maybe not the best, but it made me think of my mom, so that was awesome.
Yes. We had this conversation.
Yeah. So I just think sometimes people are like, they lost their sibling, I can't complain about. If they lost their mom or dad, I can't complain about mine. No, go ahead. In fact, I'd be willing to hear some stories about my dad and all that stuff too.
That's great.
Because I do talk about it with my siblings, but it's nice to talk about it with, just natural conversation.
You don't want
you
that
don't lose
relationship.
the piece of them.
Yeah, you don't want that to become taboo.
Yeah, no.
That's not a taboo
It's
topic.
okay,
You want to acknowledge their life.
Yeah, just because they're not here anymore, they've disappeared, sort of, that they are still just a huge part.
That was a hard thing for me to learn. When I was in 3rd grade, I had a friend who lost her big sister. And I could not say her big sister's name for many years. And I remember other people would, and I would think, I can't believe they're talking about this. we shouldn't be talking about this, you know, and of course that was from a child's
Right,
perspective.
right,
But I think as adults, we still are trying to grasp that, like, can I say, can I not,
Yeah.
what's okay to say? We don't want to mess it up.
I know, exactly.
And so for you, it's nice to have someone acknowledge
Yeah,
that relationship.
They were a real person, and they
Yeah.
were a huge part of my life, and your parent, and I know your mom and dad are, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So you talk about your parents, I'll talk about mine, it's all good.
Well, thank you so much, Kayla. You have always such wisdom to share at every topic. My friend Kayla is very wise, and so you always have good things to say. So it's been really a blessing to be able to sit down and have this conversation with you. And I've learned, I teared up a few times, because you just have such heart in everything you say and do. I'm so blessed to have you as a friend, for sure. So thank you so much for sharing this with others. I hope that this could be an encouragement to people who are going to walk through this in the future, because we never know.
Yeah.
And I just hope that this will be an
Life is
encouragement.
precious.
Life is precious. So thank you so much.
I see the work of your hands, galaxies spinning